Good evening. Welcome to Lumina Theatre Group's performance reading of Dracula, adapted from the novel by Bram Stoker for 4615 Theatre by its artistic director and Lumina alum, Jordan Friend. We're glad you could join us this evening, the second play reading in our four-play fall series. The play will last about an hour and 45 minutes with one 5-minute intermission. Now, lay back or sit back. Relax if you can. Drink your favorite beverage. Take a bite of your favorite snack and enjoy Dracula.
How these papers have been placed in sequence will be made manifest in the reading of them. All needless matters have been eliminated so that this history, almost at variance with the possibilities of latter-day belief, may stand forth as simple fact. The first document is the diary of Jonathan Harker. Age 25 at the writing of the first entry, newly licensed solicitor, hailing from Exeter, a colleague of mine for a short time.
The third day of the month of May, year 1892, the city of Bistritz, Transylvania. Left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st of May, arriving at Vienna early next morning. Having had some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country could hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with a nobleman of that country. I find that the district my client named is in the midst of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the wildest and least known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any map giving the exact locality of the castle Dracula. I read that every known superstition in the world is gathered in the horseshoe of the Carpathians. Had to hurry breakfast, as the train left at 8, or rather ought to have. It seems that the further east you go, the more unpunctual are the trains. All day long we passed through a country full of beauty of every kind, little towns or castles on the top of steep hills, surrounded by flowing rivers and streams. It was on the dark side of twilight when we got to Bistritz. Count Dracula had directed me to go to the Golden Krone Hotel. When I arrived at the hotel lobby, I found I was evidently expected.
Herr Englishman?
Yes, Jonathan Harker.
Or the Herr Englishman?
My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight. At 3 tomorrow, the coach will start for Bukovina. At the Borgo Pass, my carriage will await you, and it will bring you to me. I trust that your journey from London has been a happy one, and that you will enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, Dracula.
Would you happen to know the Count? I see. Could you tell me anything of the castle? I did not sleep well that night, for I had all sorts of queer dreams. There was a dog howling all night under my window, and I drank up all the water in my carafe, but was still thirsty. I must have finally slept, and slept late, for I was wakened by... Yes?
Must you go? Oh,
sorry.
young Herr. Must you go?
Well, yes, I must.
Must you go today?
Yes, today, at once. I thank you for your hospitality, but I am engaged on important, very important business.
Do you know what day it is?
The 4th of May.
It is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you know where you are going and what you are going to?
I'm sorry, I really must...
Wait.
I did not know what to do, for as an English churchman, I have been taught to regard such things as in some measure idolatrous. She saw, I suppose, the doubt in my face.
For your mother's sake.
I am writing up this part of the diary whilst I am waiting for the coach, which is, of course, late. And the crucifix is still around my neck. When I got on the coach, the driver had not taken his seat, and I saw him talking with the crowd around the carriage. Every now and then they looked at me. As the driver took his seat, everyone watching made the signs of the cross. Then our driver cracked his whip over the horses, and we set off on our journey. I soon forgot my ghostly fears, as before lay a green sloping land full of pine woods. Beyond the green hills rose mighty slopes of forest up to the lofty steeps of the Carpathian Mountains themselves, their snowy peaks rising grandly above us. When it grew dark, there seemed to be some excitement amongst the passengers, and they urged the driver to further his speed.
Faster!
He lashed the horses unmercifully with his long whip. Through the darkness, I could see a patch of grey light ahead of us.
Faster!
Then the mountains seemed to come nearer to us on each side and to frown down upon us, and we came to a stop. As I alighted, a horse-drawn carriage appeared, driven by a tall man in a great black hat. Into the new carriage I went and watched my former companions sink into the darkness. We went at a hard pace, then made a complete turn and went along another road. It seemed to me that we were simply going over and over the same ground again. Whilst the horses reared and plunged madly, we turned down a narrow road and passed through a tunnel. The branches of the trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine, powdery snow began to fall. The keen wind still carried the howling of the wolves nearer, nearer. Away on the left, a faint, flickering blue flame. Just then, the moon, sailing through the black clouds, appeared behind the jagged crest of a beetling, pine-clad rock, and by its light I saw a vast, ruined castle, from whose tall black windows came no ray of light, and whose broken battlements showed a jagged line against the sky. As we approached in the gloom, the courtyard looked of considerable size, and several dark ways led from it under great round arches. I stood close to a great door, old and studded with large iron nails, the stone around massively carved, and much worn by time and weather. What sort of place had I come to? What sort of grim adventure on which I had embarked?
Welcome to my house. Enter of your own free will.
Count Dracula?
I am Dracula. Come in, Mr. Harker. The night air is chill, and you must eat and rest. I pray you, be seated and sup how you please. You will, I trust, excuse me that I do not join you, but I have dined already, and I do not sup.
You do not wish to drink with me?
I never drink wine.
Oh, of course. During the time I was eating, the Count asked me many questions to my journey, and I told him by degrees all I had experienced. I had now an opportunity of observing him, and found him of a very marked physiognomy. His face was a strong aquiline, with strangely arched nostrils. His mouth was fixed and rather cruel-looking, with peculiarly sharp white teeth. These protruded over the lips, whose remarkable ruddiness showed astonishing vitality in a man of his years. We must have spoken hours, for I turned toward the window and saw the first dim streak of the coming dawn. There seemed a strange stillness over everything. But as I listened, I heard...
Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make. Ah, sir, you dwellers in the city cannot enter into the feelings of the hunter. But you must be tired. Your bedroom is all ready, and tomorrow you shall sleep as late as you will. I have to be away till the afternoon, so sleep well and dream well.
I am all in a sea of wonders. I doubt, I fear, I think strange things which I dare not confess to my own soul. God keep me, if only for the sake of those dear to me. 6th of May. I slept till late in my own accord. I found breakfast laid out and a card on the table, which was written,
I have to be absent for a while. Do not wait for me. D.
I set to and enjoyed a hearty meal. When I had done, I looked for a bell to alert the servants, but I could not find one. There are certainly odd deficiencies in the house, considering the extraordinary evidences of wealth. The table service is of gold, but I have not yet seen a servant anywhere. The curtains are of the costliest and most beautiful fabrics, but still in none of the rooms is there a mirror. I did find, within an antechamber, a sort of library containing, to my great delight, a vast number of English books, whole shelves full of them, all relating to England and English life and customs and manners.
Good evening, my friend.
I'm sorry,
Oh, no. I am glad you found your way into my library. These companions, my books, have been good friends to me. Through them, I have come to know your great England, and to know her is to love her. Come, tell me of London and of the house which you have procured from me.
Yes, of course. I hope you won't object if I read from my notes. The estate is called Carfax. The house is very large and of all periods, but dates back, I should say, to the medieval times. It is close to an old chapel or church, are but a few houses close at hand, one being a very large house only recently turned into a private lunatic asylum.
I am glad that it is old and big. A house cannot be made habitable in a day, and after all, how few days go up to make a century.
Yeah.
I rejoice also that there is a chapel of old times. We Transylvanian nobles love not to think that our bones may lie amongst the common dead.
Somehow his words and his look did not seem to accord.
Now to another matter of business. Suppose I, who have much of affairs, wish to ship goods to some English port.
It would be easy.
Good, very good.
Might I be bold as to ask what you plan to ship?
Why, there is the morning again. How remiss I am to let you stay up so long. You must make your conversation regarding my dear new country of England less interesting, so that I may not forget how time flies by us.
And with a courtly bow, he quickly left me. He was some little time away, and I began to look at some of the books around me. One was an atlas, found opening naturally to England, as if that map had been much used. I found in certain places little rings marked. One was near London, on the east side, where his new estate was. Another was Whitby, on the Yorkshire coast. 8th of May. I fear I am myself the only living soul within this place. Could it even have been the Count himself who drove the carriage to the castle? He, striking terror into the hearts of the peasants? Bless that good woman who hung the crucifix around my neck. I only slept a few hours when I went to bed, and feeling that I could not sleep any more, I got up. I had hung my shaving glass by the window and was just beginning to shave.
Good morning.
I started, for it amazed me that I had not seen him, since the reflection of the glass covered the whole room behind me. In starting, I had cut myself slightly, but I did not notice it at the moment. I turned to the glass again to see how I had been mistaken. This time there could be no error. There was no reflection of him in the mirror. At the instant, I saw that the cut had bled a little, and the blood was trickling over my chin. When the Count saw my face,
Take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country.
when he was gone, a notion overcame me which had lingered at the back of my mind since the moment I entered the castle. I ran to the outer hall and raced up and down, searching for evidence to confirm my suspicion. Doors everywhere, and all locked and bolted. Save from the windows in the castle walls, is there an available exit? The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner.
My friend, Jonathan Harker, have you since your first letter to your colleague, Mr. Peter Hawkins, or to any other?
No, I regret. I haven't seemed to have had the chance.
Then write now, my young friend. Write to Mr. Hawkins and to any other, and say, if it will please you, that you shall stay with me until a month from now.
Do you wish me to stay so long?
I desire it much. Nay, I will take no refusal. Let me advise you, my dear young friend, nay, let me warn you with all seriousness, that should you leave these rooms, you must not by any chance go to sleep in any other part of the castle. It is old and has many memories, and there are bad dreams for those who sleep unwisely.
When he left me, I went to my room. Not hearing any sound, I came out and went up the stone stair to look out towards the south. There was some sense of freedom in the vast expanse, inaccessible though it was to me. But as I leaned from the window, my eye was caught by something moving by a window 1 story below me. When I saw was the Count's head coming out from the window. Then the whole man slowly emerged from the window and began to crawl down the castle wall, his fingers and toes grasping the stones, moving downwards, just as a lizard moves along a wall. 15th of May. Once more have I seen the Count go out in his lizard fashion. He moved downwards in a sidelong way, some 100 feet down. Knowing he had left the castle, I saw my chance. I went back to the room and, taking a lamp, tried all the... Locked. At last, I found one door at the top of the stairway, which, though it seemed to be locked, gave under pressure. I was now in a wing of the castle. I found a soft quietude come over me. The Count's warning came into my mind, but I took a pleasure in disobeying it. The sense of sleep was upon me, and I determined not to return tonight to the gloom-haunted rooms, but to rest. Here, I was not alone.
Go on. You are first, and we shall follow. Yours is the right to begin.
He is young and strong. There are kisses for us all.
Mr. Harker, you lay quiet in an agony of delightful anticipation. You feel the movement of my breath upon you.
She arched her neck. She actually licked her lips till I could see in the moonlight the moisture shining on red tongue as it lapped the white, sharp teeth.
Lower and lower goes my head as my lips fasten to your throat.
You can feel the hot breath on your neck.
Your throat begins to tingle. You can feel the soft, shivering touch of my lips on the skin of your throat.
And the hard dents of two sharp teeth.
I closed my eyes in a languorous ecstasy and waited with beating heart.
How dare you! How dare you touch him, any of you! How dare you cast eyes on him when I had forbidden it? Back, I tell you all, this man belongs to me.
You yourself never loved. You never love.
You never love. You
Yes,
never
I
love.
too can love, and I promise you, when I am done with him, he is yours. Now go, go! I must awaken him, for there is work to be done.
Are we to have nothing tonight?
Here, take this.
A bag, and it's moving.
A writhing bag.
What's in it?
Oh, what's in it?
Ah!
And if my ears did not deceive me, there was a gasp and a low wail as of a half-smothered child. 17th of May, awoke in my own bed. The Count must have carried me here, for my clothes were folded and laid by in a manner which was not my habit. 18th of May, I have been down to look at that room again in daylight, for I must know the truth. Found the door locked, but the woodwork splintered. I fear this was no dream. 19 May, last night, the Count asked me in to write 3 letters.
One should say that your work here is nearly done, and that you will start for home within a few days. Another, that you are departing the following morning. And the third, that you have left the castle and have arrived at Bistritz. Posts in this area are few and uncertain. Your writing now would ensure ease of mind to your friends. I will have these later dated letters held over at Bistritz until due time for release, in case chance would admit of my prolonging your stay.
I therefore pretended to fall in with his views and asked him what dates I should put on the letters. He calculated a minute and then said,
The first should be June 12th, the second, June 19th, and the third, June 29th.
I now know the span of my life. God help me. 28 May. A band of Gianni gypsies have come to the castle and are encamped in the courtyard. They brought with them 2 great wagons, each filled with heavy wooden boxes with rope handles, which they deposited in the yard. 15th of June. All of my papers gone. My travel clothes gone. Any trace of my existence has vanished from my room. 24th of June. Last night, the Count left me early and locked himself into his own room. As soon as I dared, I ran up the winding stair and looked out. I saw something coming out of the Count's window. The whole man emerged. He had on my suit of clothes and slung over his shoulder the terrible bag which I had seen him throw to the 3 women. Hours passed. I heard something stirring in the Count's room. The voice belonged to a disheveled woman who ran into the courtyard, pounding her heart. When she saw my face in the window, she screamed.
Monster, give me my child!
Somewhere high overhead, I heard the voice of the Count calling in his harsh, metallic whisper. His call seemed to be answered from far and wide by the howling of wolves. Suddenly there was no sound from the woman. 29th of June. Today is the date of my last letter. I was awakened by the Count.
Tomorrow, my friend, we must part. Your return to your beautiful England, I to some work which may have such an end that we may never meet. Your letter home has been dispatched. Tomorrow I shall not be here, but all shall be ready for your...
Why may I not go tonight?
Because, dear sir, my coachman and horses are away on a mission.
But I would walk with pleasure. I want to get away at once.
And your baggage?
I do not care about it. I can send it for some other time.
You English have a saying which is close to my heart. Welcome the coming, speed departing guest. Come with me, my dear young friend. Not an hour shall you wait in my house against your will. Come.
With a lamp, he preceded me down the stairs and along the hall. Suddenly, he stopped.
Hark.
It was almost as if the howling sprang up at the rising of his hand, just as the music of a great orchestra seems to leap under the baton of the conductor. Shut the door! Shut the door! I shall wait till morning. 30th of June. These may be the last words I ever write in this diary. A subtle change in the air. Morning has come. The keys to the castle must be in the Count's room, and the light of the sun gives me the nerves to find it. His room was empty, but in one corner was an open door leading to a circular stairway which went steeply down and through which came a deathly, sickly odor, the odor of old earth newly turned. I found myself in an old, ruined chapel, which had evidently been used as a graveyard, for the ground had recently been dug over and the earth placed in the same great wooden boxes which had been brought by the Gianni. 50 boxes in all, each marked for shipment and nailed shut, save for one. In one box, on a pile of newly dug earth, lay the Count. He looked as if his youth had been half renewed. His white skin seemed ruby red underneath. On the lips were gouts of fresh blood which trickled from the corners of the mouth and ran over the chin and neck. This is the being I am hoping to transfer to London, where perhaps for centuries to come he might, amongst its teeming millions, satiate his lust for blood. The Count's window is the only way. I shall attempt to scale the castle wall, down and away from this cursed land, where the devil and his children still walk with earthly feet. At least God's mercy is better than that of these monsters, and the precipice is steep and high. At its foot, a man may sleep as a man. Goodbye, all. Mina!
9th of May. My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing. The life of an assistant schoolmistress is sometimes trying. I am longing to be with you and by the sea at Whitby, where we can talk together freely and build our castles in the air. I have just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan from Transylvania. He is well and will be returning in about a week. I am longing to hear all his news. Goodbye, your loving Mina. P.S. Tell me all the news when you write. You have not told me anything for a long time. I hear rumours, and especially of a tall, handsome man.
My dearest Mina, as to the tall man, that was Mr. Arthur Holmwood. He often comes to see us, and he and Mamma get on very well together. We met some time ago a man that would just do for you if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He is a doctor and really clever, and he has an immense lunatic asylum all under his own care.
Dog for patient number 16, called R.M. Renfield. Sanguine temperament, great physical strength, morbidly excitable, periods of gloom, ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out.
Arthur, or rather Mr. Holmwood, introduced Dr. Seward to me. He has a curious habit of looking one straight in the face as if trying to read one's thoughts. He tries this on very much with me, but I flatter myself as he has got a tough nut to crack. Arthur uses that expression every day. Oh, there it is all out. Oh, Mina, I love him. I love Arthur Holmwood. I am blushing as I write, for although I think he loves me, he has not told me so in words. I'll see you by the sea. My dear Mina, yours, Lucy.
24th of July, Whitby. Lucy greeted me at the station looking sweeter and lovelier than ever.
Mina, dear! Oh, you've no idea how happy I am. You're actually here. I've so much to show you. The little river running out to the harbour, the great viaduct along the pier.
And when will I meet the famous Mr. Holmwood?
Oh, Arthur, soon as he can leave London. And will your Jonathan be joining us by the sea?
Lucy, I haven't...
Oh, and the graveyard.
What?
I must show you the gorgeous graveyard behind the old Whitby Abbey, all full of tombstones.
Perhaps the seaside first.
Oh, yes, of course. Come with me. Mother will be anxious to see you.
Lucy and I stayed on the beach a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. That made me just a little heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month.
Lucy! Lucy, good grief, what are you doing here? Mina! Mina, my darling! You have no idea how much my Lucy's been waiting for you. Goodness, you look thin. Well, supper's cold. Both of you, come off the beach before the sun sets.
5th of June. The case of Renfield grows more interesting. Just now his hobby is catching flies. He's at present such a quantity that I was forced to demand a reduction in their number. To my astonishment, he did not break into a fury as I had expected.
May I have 3 days? I shall clear them away.
Yes, of course. That would do. 18th of June. He has turned his mind now to spiders and has got several very big fellows in a box. Once again, I requested he reduce their numbers, to which he cheerfully acquiesced. Later, a horrid blowfly, bloated with some carrion food in its belly, buzzed into the room. He caught it, put it into his mouth, and he ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued.
It is very good and very wholesome. It is life, strong life, and gives life to me.
This gave me an idea, or the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of the spiders. 8th of July, he has managed to get a sparrow and has already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple. for already the spiders have diminished. 19th of July, we are progressing. My friend now has a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me.
Doctor, I want to ask a favor, a great favor.
And what is that, Mr. Renfield?
A kitten. A nice, little, sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed.
I was not unprepared for his request, for I had noticed how his pets went on increasing in size and vivacity. But I did not care that this pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and the spiders. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm afraid that's not possible right now. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it. 20th of July. Visited Renfield very early, before the attendant did his rounds. I looked around for the birds, and not seeing them, asked where they were.
They have all flown away.
There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow some drops of blood.
26th of July. I wrote to Mr. Hawkins, Jonathan's colleague, asking if he'd received word from Jonathan, and he responded with an enclosed letter from him. It is only a line dated from Castle Dracula and says that he is just starting for home. That is not like Jonathan. Then, too, Lucy has lately taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. Her mother has spoken to me about it, and we have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. 6th of August. Still no news from Jonathan. Lucy walks more than ever, and each night I am awakened by her moving about the room. The seaside has been grey for weeks, and the gloom has preyed upon my better thoughts and made me fear the worst, both for her and Jonathan. Last night was very threatening, and as I write, the sun is hidden in thick clouds. The fishermen say there's something in that wind and in the waves beyond, that sounds and looks and tastes and smells like death. It is in the air. I feel it coming.
The Daily Telegraph, 8th of August. Whitby, one of the greatest and most sudden storms on record, has just been experienced here, with results both strange and unique. A little after midnight came a strange hollow sound from over the sea, and without warning, a tempest broke.
In the midst of the storm, the East Cliff searchlight discovered some distance away a schooner with all sails set. The wind and the waves blew her back and forth, but she somehow seemed to steer miraculously towards the harbour and docked safely. Observers from the cliffs cheered the apparent skill of the captain, but the euphoria was quickly diminished.
As the searchlight shed a beam on the docked ship, a shudder ran through all those who saw her, for lashed to the helm was a corpse with drooping head, which swung horribly to and fro with each motion of the ship.
The Times, 9th of August. The sequel to the strange arrival is almost more startling than the thing itself. It turns out that the schooner is Russian from Varna. She carried with her only a small amount of cargo, a number of great wooden boxes, each filled with earth. This cargo was consigned to a Whitby solicitor, Mr. S.F. Billington of 7 The Crescent, who this morning went aboard and took formal possession of the goods.
A good deal of interest was abroad concerning the sole survivor of the ship's journey, a large black dog, which emerged into the beach unscathed and has since disappeared. Tomorrow we'll see the funeral for the captain, and so will end another mystery of the sea.
Lucy? Lucy? Lucy's bed was empty, though it was gone midnight. Dressing gown and dress were both in their places. I looked in all the other rooms of the house with an ever-growing fear chilling in my heart. Finally, I came to the hall door and found it open. I knew where she would be and ran all the way to East Cliff and to Lucy's favourite seat in the graveyard. There was a bright full moon with a heavy black drifting clouds, a fleeting diorama of light and shade as they sailed across. And there, in the distance, at her favourite seat, I saw a half-reclining figure, snowy white.
Miss Mina Muri breathed a sigh of relief to see her friend Lucy unscathed. But as she got closer, He saw something, yes. Something tall and black, bending over the half-reclining white figure.
Lucy! Lucy!
Something raised a head, and from where she was, she could see a white face and red gleaming eyes.
19th of August. Strange and sudden change in Renfield last night. He is usually respectful and at times servile, but tonight, all he could say was,
I don't want to talk to you. You don't count now. The master is at hand.
Every hour he grows more excited with mention of the master. I am weary tonight and low in spirits.
A week after that night in the graveyard, Arthur came to Whitby to see Lucy. Her sleepwalking had worsened, and she seemed to flit between great flights of fancy and periods of deep lethargy. One day, I received a letter. A nun in Budapest had taken in a man sick with brain fever. For months, they could not even gather his name, but now they had it. He's alive, Lucy, he's alive!
You must go at once.
Budapest?
I'll be here when you return, darling. Now go and find him.
Dr. Seward, patient number 16.
Yes, what is it?
He's escaped.
Escaped? How? When did you see him?
Not 10 minutes ago. I heard his window being wrenched out. By the time I got there, he was already gone. I saw him running.
Which way? Where was he running?
Towards the old house, towards Carfax.
I ran as quickly as I could. As I got through the belt of trees, I saw Renfield's figure scale the high wall which separates our grounds from those of the deserted house. On the far side of the house, I found him pressed close against the old iron-bound oak door of the chapel, talking.
I am here to do your bidding, master. I am your slave, and you will reward me, for I shall be faithful. I have worshipped you long and afar off.
I caught the patient's eye and followed it, but could trace nothing as it looked into the moonlight sky, except a big bat which was flapping its silent and ghostly way to the west.
Now that you are here, I await your commands. I shall be patient, master. It is coming.
Budapest, 24th of August. I find Jonathan a shell of his former self.
Mina.
Jonathan Harker! Where in this good world have you been?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I can't remember.
The letters you wrote.
The last thing, I was in a village. A woman, she...
Jonathan, Sister Agatha told me you've spoken in your sleep. Has she told you what you said?
Sister Agatha says the ravings of the sick are the secrets of God.
31st of August. Letter from Arthur Holmwood to Dr. John Seward. My dear Jack, I want you to do me a favor. Lucy is ill and is getting worse every day. I've asked her if there's any cause, but she gives no response. I'm sure that there is something preying on my dear girl's mind. Come at once. Do not fail. Arthur.
My dear Arthur, I shall be in Whitby tomorrow. John.
You're here, my dear. You're right here.
My jacket. It's over there.
Are you cold?
No. The left pocket. Look in the left pocket. Mina, you know, my dear, my ideas of the trust between husband and wife. There should be no secret, no concealment. I've had a great shock, and when I try to think of what it is, I feel my head spin round, and I do not know if it was real or the dreaming of a madman. The secret is in that diary, and I do not want to know it.
Jonathan.
Take the book and keep it. Read it if you will, but never let me know, unless indeed some solemn duty should come upon me to go back to the bitter hours, asleep or awake, sane or mad, recorded there.
Yes, I promise. You'll never hear these pages again.
2nd September, Whitby. My dear Arthur, With regard to Miss Westenra's health, I hasten to let you know at once that in my opinion, there's not any functional disturbance or any malady that I know of, but she is woefully different from what she was when I saw her last. Her blood shows no signs of anemia, and yet she is clearly somewhat bloodless.
He's there.
Oh, what's that?
She complains of difficulty breathing at times and of heavy lethargic sleep with dreams that frightened her.
He's here.
But regarding which she can remember nothing. She shows no signs of physical abuse, save 2 small prick marks on her neck, which seem slow to dissipate.
The master is here.
Who's there?
I am in doubt, and so have done the best thing I know of. There is someone who I believe can help us. I have written him already. I ought to warn you, dear Arthur, that no matter on what ground he comes, we must accept his wishes.
He's in London.
Jonathan, who?
He's here.
Who's there?
Count Dracula.
There will now be an intermission of 5 minutes.
2, Dracula, opens several days later with a letter from Professor Abraham Van Helsing.
September the 2nd to Dr. John Stewart. My good friend, I received your letter and I am already coming to you. I shall arrive tomorrow. Have ready at hand the arrangements for my instruments exactly as I taught you. Till then, goodbye, friend John. Yours, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing.
7th of September. My dear Arthur, my news today is not so good. Lucy's symptoms have worsened. She herself grows paler and her night terrors more severe. My old master, Van Helsing, the great specialist, is coming to stay with me, and I shall put her in his charge conjointly with myself. Please God, with his knowledge, we shall come through this. Yours ever, John Seward. The first thing Van Helsing said to me when we met at Liverpool Street Station was...
John, have you said anything to Arthur Holmwood?
No, I waited till I'd seen you. I wrote him a letter simply telling him that you were coming, as Miss Westenra was not so well, and that I should let him know if need be.
Right, quite right, my friend. It is better that he not know all as yet. Perhaps he will never know, I pray so. But if it be needed, then he shall know all.
I see. Well then, shall we proceed?
Good friend John, let me caution you. You deal with madmen. You and I shall keep as yet what we know here, and here as well. I have for myself thoughts at the present. Later I shall unfold to you.
Why not now? It may do some good. We may arrive at some decision.
You were always a careful student, and your casebook was ever more full than the rest. And I trust that good habit have not failed. I counsel you, put down in record even your doubts and surmises. Hereafter, it may be of interest to you to see how true you guess.
When I described the symptoms, same as before, but infinitely more marked, he looked very grave, said nothing. When we arrived, Mrs. Westenra saw us in. Van Helsing and I were shown up to Lucy's room. I was shocked when I saw her yesterday. I was horrified when I saw her today. She was ghastly, chalkily pale. The red seemed to have gone even from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out prominently.
No, I have heard outside, my friend. This is dreadful. There is no time to be lost. There must be a transfusion of blood at once.
There was a knock at the door. Arthur Holmwood, Lucy's husband-to-be, sprinted in.
Jack, I was so anxious. I read between the lines of your letter, and I've been in agony. Dr. Van Helsing, I'm so thankful to you, sir, for coming.
You have come just in time. You are the lover of our dear miss. She is bad. Very, very bad. You are to help her. You can do more than you can possibly know. That any that live in your carriage is the best help.
What can I do? Tell me, and I shall do it. My life is hers, and I would give her the last drop of blood in my body for her.
In that case, Mr. Holmwood.
Then, with swiftness, but with absolute method, Van Helsing performed the operation. As the transfusion went on, something like life seemed to come back to poor Lucy's cheeks. But the loss of blood was telling on Arthur, strong man as he was. As the professor had now finished his operation, he adjusted the pillow to the patient's head. As he did so, the narrow black velvet band she seems always to wear around her throat was strained a little to one side and showed the red mark. Just over the external jugular vein, there were two small punctures. Van Helsing saw it too. What do you make of that mark on her throat?
I must go back to Amsterdam tonight. See the books and the things that I want. You must remain here all night. You must not let your sight pass from her. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we may begin.
May begin? What on earth do you mean?
We shall see, my friend. We shall see.
8th of September. I sat up all night with Lucy. The opiate worked itself off towards dusk, and she waked naturally. She looked a different being from before the operation. However, the following night, she did not want to sleep.
No, I am afraid.
Why so? Sleep is the boon we all crave for.
Not if you were like me. If sleep to you was a presage of horror.
What on earth do you mean?
Oh, I don't know. But that is what is so terrible. I just dreaded the very thought.
But my dear girl, I'm here watching you, and I can promise that nothing will happen.
How good you are to me. Then I will sleep. Doctor?
Yes?
Where's Arthur?
At home, resting. He was with you all last night.
He feels close. I feel his warmth. Good night, Doctor.
All night long, I watched by her. She never stirred, but slept on and on.
A deep, tranquil, life-giving, health-giving.
Good morning, friend John.
Professor.
And how is our patient? Come, let us see. Oh, God in Himmel.
She was horribly white and more frail looking than ever. Even the lips were white, and the gums seemed to have shrunken back from the teeth.
All our work is undone. We must begin again. Another transfusion. But there is no young answer here now. I have to call on you yourself this time, friend John.
There was no possibility of an opiate just at present, and no need of one. And so, without a moment's delay, we began the transfusion.
11th of September. This afternoon, I found Van Helsing in excellent spirits, and my daughter Lucy much better. The professor brought with him a great bundle of white flowers.
These are for you, Miss Lucy.
For me? Oh, Dr. Van Helsing.
Yes, my dear, but these are medicines. I shall put them in your window. I make pretty wreath and hang them around your neck, so you sleep well. Oh, yes.
Oh, Professor, I believe you're only having a joke with me. Why, these flowers are only common garlic.
Not trifling with me. I never jest. There's a grim purpose in what I do, and I warn you, do not thwart me. Oh, little miss, my dear, do not fear me. I only do it for your own good. Come with me, friend John, and you shall help me deck the room with my garlic.
He fastened up the windows and latched them securely, then rubbed the flowers all over the sashes, as though to ensure that every whiff of air that might get in would be laden with the garlic smell.
Oh, my child, take care you do not disturb what we have arranged, and even if the room feel close, do not tonight open the window or the door. Promise me this.
I promise.
We speak in the morning.
Did not fear to go to sleep again, although as I lay in peace, the boughs or bats or something flapped almost angrily against the window panes.
The Pall Mall Gazette, September issue.
The Adventure of the Escaped Wolf.
Interview with the keeper in the Zoological Gardens. After many inquiries, I managed to find the keeper of the section of the Zoological Gardens in which the wolves are kept, Mr. Thomas Builder.
All right, Governor, let's hear about the old story. That wolf, what we call Berserker, was one of the 3 grey ones that came from Norway. He was a nice, well-behaved wolf that never gave me no trouble to talk of. Well, sir, it was about 2 hours after feeding yesterday when I first heard the disturbance. There was Berserker a-tearing like a mad thing at the bars as if he wanted to get out. There wasn't much people about that day, and close at hand was only one man. A tall, thin chap. He had an odd, cold-looking red eyes. That there man come over, and blessed if he didn't put his hand and stroke the old wolf's ears. Take care, says I. Berserker is quick.
Never mind. I'm used to them.
Are you in the business yourself?
Not exactly in the business, but I have made I've made pets of several wolves.
And with that, he lifts his hat as polite as the Lord and walks away.
And then?
Then that night I checked the grounds and old Berserker is gone. The bars in his cage all mangled and bent out. No Wolfie in sight.
That's all.
That's all.
Hello? Is anybody there? Is anyone there?
Lucy, it's Mother. It's me.
Oh, God.
I was uneasy about you, darling, and came in to see that you were all right. What are you wearing?
Dr. Van Helsing says it's medicine.
Oh, goodness, dear, no wonder you're not sleeping. Come, take that nonsense off.
No.
What's that noise?
Every night the bat taps on my window.
The bat? Bat? What bat? Lucy, dear. What is that smell? It's the window.
Mother?
He's placed his filth behind the curtain. It comes down right now.
Mother, don't.
How shall I describe what we saw?
Lucy's mother lay dead, a look of terror fixed upon her lifeless face.
By her side lay Lucy, face white and drawn, her throat bare, showing 2 little wounds from before.
Horribly white and mangled.
Arthur?
Yes, I'm here, my darling.
Oh, my love, I am so glad you've come.
Her mouth opened, and the pale gums drawn back made the teeth look longer and sharper than ever.
Arthur, oh my love, I am so glad you have come. Kiss me.
Yes, my love.
Oh, no, not for your living soul under oath.
Oh, my true friend. My true friend. And his. Oh, guard him and give me peace.
I swear it, my child. It is over. She is dead.
Then there is peace for her at last. It is the end.
Oh, no, alas, it not so. It is only the beginning. We can do nothing as yet. Wait and see.
The funeral was arranged for the following day. Oh, Lucy's loveliness had come back to her in death, and the hours that had passed had but restored the beauty of life, till I could not believe that I was looking at a corpse. Lucy lay in the tomb of her kin, a lordly death house in a lonely churchyard, away from teeming London, where the air's fresh and wild flowers grow.
The Westminster Gazette, 25th September.
A Hampstead mystery.
The neighborhood of Hampstead is at present exercised with a series of events which seem to run along the lines parallel to those of the Kensington Horror, or the Stabbing Woman, or the Woman in Black.
During the past 2 or 3 days, several cases have occurred of young children straying from home.
In all these cases, the children were too young to give any properly intelligible account of themselves, but the consensus of their excuses was that they had been with a blue-phone lady.
There is, however, possibly a serious side to the question, for all the children who have been missed at night have been slightly wounded in the throat. One child was found terribly weak and looked quite emaciated.
The knock on my door came at 2:30. Dr. Van Helsing?
I am he. Mrs. Harker, is it not? My deepest gratitude for you for agreeing to meet me. Madam Mina, it is on account of the dead that I come.
Sir, you could have no better claim on me than that you are a friend and helper of Lucy Westenwell.
I have read your letters to Miss Lucy. I know how dear you were to her and how your husband suffered. I come here because I need your help. You were with her in Whitby. I ask you not so much of your kindness to tell me all of it, that you can remember.
I have it all written down. My diary.
Diary? That is more than I could have possibly hoped.
The doctor bowed and settled himself in a chair with his back to the light, and for hours pored over my diary.
Oh, Madam Mina, this paper is as sunshine. It opens the gates to me. I am dazzled with so much light. There are darknesses in life, and there are lights. You are one of the lights. And your husband, tell me of him. Is he quite well? Was that fever gone? And is he strong and hearty?
Oh, Doctor, I have returned from Budapest with the shell of the man I love. Every day I see and hear and feel him suffer. And I cannot know whether the demons that plague him are of his own making or another's. Please, I beg of you, if there is anything you can do to let him rest. Lucy is gone. I can't lose him too. Please.
My dear child, my life is a barren and a lonely one. And I am glad that I may here be of some use to you.
Truly, there's no such thing as finality. Not a week since this madness ended. Not a week's peace to mourn and rest. Today, Van Helsing came back and almost bounded into the room at about 5:30, thrusting last night's Westminster Gazette into my hand.
What do you think of that? Well?
The children's wounds are just like poor Lucy's. Whatever it was that injured her has injured them.
You think then that those small holes in the children's throats were made by the same creature that made the holes in Miss Lucy?
I suppose so.
Then you're wrong. Oh, if it were so. But alas, no, it is worse, far, far worse.
In God's name, Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean?
They were made by Miss Lucy.
2:00 in the morning. Van Helsing led me to the tomb where Lucy was buried. And now what?
Now we open the coffin.
He began taking up the screws and finally lifted off the lid and motioned me to look.
Empty.
The next morning, more reports. More children found with little punctures in their necks. We returned to Lucy's resting place, this time in daylight. Once more, my mental pried open the coffin. There lay Lucy, more radiantly beautiful than ever, and I could not believe that she was dead. The lips were red, nay, redder than before, and on the cheeks was a delicate bloom.
You are satisfied now?
Against all reason. What are we to do?
I shall cut off her head and fill her mouth with garlic, and I shall drive a stake through her heart. But it cannot be done alone.
It was just 12:15 when Arthur, Van Helsing, and I got to the churchyard over the low wall.
We all kept close together, with Van Helsing leading the way.
When we reached the entrance, I extinguished my lantern, leaving only moonlight to see us.
In respectful silence, we took the places assigned to us close around the tomb. There, we waited. Far down the avenue of yews, we saw a dim white figure which held something dark at its breast. My own heart grew cold as ice, and I could hear the gasp of Arthur as we recognized the features of Lucy Westenra.
A child! She's holding a child!
Quiet! Her eyes blazed with unholy light, and her face became wreathed with a voluptuous smile. With a careless motion, she flung the child to the ground. He gave a sharp cry and lay there moaning.
Come to me, Arthur. Leave these others and come to me. My arms are hungry for you. Come, and we can rest together. Come, my husband, come.
Yes, yes, my love.
Van Helsing, the crucifix!
We all looked on with horrified amazement as we saw the woman, with a corporeal body as real at the moment as yours and mine, pass through the crack in the tomb.
Where scarce a knife blade could have gone.
Answer me, my friend. Am I to proceed in our work?
Do as you will. There can be no horror like this, ever, anymore.
Come now, my friends.
We entered the tomb and Van Helsing again lifted the lid off Lucy's coffin. There the corpse lay, and she seemed like a nightmare of Lucy. The pointed teeth, the blood-stained voluptuous now.
Really Lucy's body, or only a demon in her shape?
It is her body, but not in it. Yet in a little while you shall see her.
Van Helsing began taking the items from his bag and placing them ready for use. His operating knives, which he placed to hand.
And last, a round wooden stake, some 2.5 to 3 inches thick and about 3 feet long.
My young friends, before we do anything, let me tell you this. All that die from the preying on the undead become undead themselves and prey on their kind. So that, my friend Arthur, it will be a blessed hand for her that shall strike the blows that sets her free. To this I am willing, but is there none amongst us who has a better right?
Tell me what I am to do, and I shall not falter.
Brave lad, a moment's courage, and it is done. The stake must be driven through her heart.
Arthur took the stake and the hammer, and when once his mind was set, his hands never trembled, nor even quivered. He placed the point over the heart, and as I looked, I could see its dint in the white flesh. Then he struck with all his might.
Ah!
There in the coffin lay no longer the foul thing that we had so dreaded. Lucy as we had seen her in life, with her face of unparalleled sweetness and purity.
Now, my friends, one step of our work is done, but there remains a graver task. So, find the author of all this sorrow and stamp him out. Tonight, I leave for Amsterdam, shall return, and then begins our great quest.
When we got back, Van Helsing found a telegram waiting for him.
I'm coming up by train. Jonathan at Whitby. Important news. Mina Harker.
The wonderful Madam Mina, pearl among women. She arrived, but I cannot stay. She must go to your house, friend John.
He gave me a typewritten copy of a diary kept by Jonathan Harker when he was abroad, and also a copy of Mrs. Harker's diary at Whitby.
Take these and study them well. You will need all your faith, even you who have such experience as you have had tonight. What is here told may be the beginning of an end to you and me and many others, or it may sound the death knell of the undead who walk the earth.
30th of September. By Van Helsing's order, all of us met in Dr. Stewart's study 2 hours after dinner.
I may, I suppose, take it we are all acquainted with the facts in these papers. Then what could I think that I tell you something of the enemy with which we are dealing, so that we may act and take our measure accordingly. There are such things as vampires. Alas, had I known at first what I know now, nay, had I even guessed at him, one whose life was so precious to us had been spared. But that is gone. And we must so work that other poor souls perish not, whilst we can save. The Nosferatu do not die like the bee when he stings once. Nay, he grows stronger He can command the elements, the storm, the fog, the thunder. He can command all the meaner things, the bats, the owl, the moth, the fox, and the wolf. How then are we to destroy him? My friends, this is a terrible task which we undertake. And there may be consequences that make the brave shudder. What say you? All we have to go on are superstitions and traditions. He can transform himself into a bat, a wolf. He can command all the elements. He can come in as his elemental mist or the moonlight. He can do all these things, yet he is not free. Nay, he is even more prisoner than the madman in his cell. For it is said he may not enter anywhere at first unless there be someone of the household who bid him enter. And his power ceases, as do all evil things. It's the coming of the day. And now we must settle what we do. We know from the inquiry of Jonathan that came from the castle to Whitby, 50 boxes of earth, all of which were delivered at Carfax. And we also know by Jonathan's good work that at least some of these boxes had been removed. It seems to me that we must trace each of these boxes, and we are ready. We must either capture or kill the monster in his lair. Or we must, so to speak, sterilize the earth so that no more he can seek safety in it.
As there's no time to lose, I say we have a look at his house right now. Time is everything with him, and swift action on our part may save another victim.
You are in the right. All of us must go together tonight. But for you, Madam Minas, you are too precious to us to have such a risk.
Precious? Professor, I must insist.
You must be our star and our hope, and we shall act all the more free that you are not in the danger, such as we are. Jonathan shall stay here with you.
It was a better acquiescence than chivalry.
Just as we were about to leave the house, an urgent message was brought to me from Renfield to know if I would see him at once.
He seems very importunate, sir. I have never seen him so eager. I don't know but what, if you don't see him soon, he will have one of his violent fits.
I knew the man would not have said this without some cause. So I asked the others to wait a few minutes for me, and I went to see my patient.
I entreat you, Dr. Seward. Oh, let me implore you to let me out of this house at once. Send me where you will. Send keepers with me, with whips and chains. Let them take me in a strait waistcoat, manacled and leg-ironed, into jail. But let me go out of this. You don't know what you do, my dear. You don't know whom you wrong or how, and I may not tell. Woe is me. I may not tell. By all you hold sacred, all you hold dear, by your love that is lost. Oh, hear me. Hear me. Let me go. Let me go. No.
No more of this. We've had quite enough already. Get your bed and try to behave more discreetly. Suddenly stopped and looked at me quickly for several moments. Without a word, he rose and, moving over, sat down on the side of the bed. The collapse had come, as on former occasions, just as I had expected.
You will, I trust, Dr. Seward, do me the justice to bear in mind later on that I did what I could to convince you tonight.
I went to bed when the men had gone, simply because they told me to. I didn't feel sleepy, and I did feel full of devouring anxiety. It is strange to me to be kept in the dark as I am today after Jonathan's full confidence for so many years.
Seward returned to set off for Carfax House, the building that Count Dracula had rented.
Having passed the wall, we took our way to the house, taking care to keep in the shadows of the trees and the lawn when the moonlight shone out.
When we got to the porch, the professor opened his bag.
Friends, we are going into a terrible danger, and we shall need arms. Keep these near your heart.
A little silver crucifix.
Withered garlic blossoms.
And now, friend John, the skeleton key.
The light from our tiny lamps fell in all sorts of odd forms. As the rays crossed each other, or the opacity of our bodies threw great shadows, I could not for the life get away from the feeling that there was someone else amongst us. I led the way to the chapel and found myself opposite a low, arched oaken door, ribbed with iron bands. The air was heavy, dank, and cold.
And a faint malodorous miasma filled the place, composed of all the ills of mortality and the pungent, acrid smell.
The first thing to do, my friends, is to see how many of the boxes are left.
I've counted. There are only a couple of dozen.
Good God, rats!
They seem to swarm over the place all at once, till the lamplight, shining on their moving dark bodies and glittering, baleful eyes, made the place look like a bank of earth set with fireflies.
We must hurry. We shall be drowning with these beasts.
One by one, we destroyed the boxes and placed roses to purify the unholy earth within. All the while, the rats filled the chapel until we were climbing over them.
You have to leave now.
But the mist got thicker and thicker, forming a cloud in the room. A pillar of smoke towering above us, through which we could see the light of gas shining like two red eyes. The asylum was silent when Helsing Arthur and I got back, save for some poor creature who was screaming away in one of the distant wards, and a low moaning sound from Renfield's room. Then, just before sunrise, my attendant came bursting into my room. Renfield had met with some accident. When we came to Renfield's room, we found him lying on the floor on his left side in a glittering pool of blood. His back appeared to be broken, and both his right arm and leg and the whole side of his face were paralyzed.
Quick, doctor, quick, I am dying. I feel that I have but a few minutes, and I have something I must say before I die, or before my poor, crushed brain dies anyhow. It was after you left me, when I implored you to let me go away. He came up to the window in the mist and laughed with his red mouth, his sharp white teeth glinting in the moonlight. I wouldn't ask him to come in at first, though I knew he wanted to, just as he had wanted all along. Then he began promising me things, not in words, but by doing them. How? By making them appear. Rats, hundreds, thousands, millions of them, and every one a life, and dogs to eat them, and cats too, all lives, all red blood, with years of life in it. He beckoned me to the window.
All these lives will I give you, aye, and many more, and greater through countless ages, if you will fall down and worship me.
Before I knew what I was doing, I found myself opening the window and saying to him, "Come in, Lord and Master."
And then?
He said he had been with the Lady Mina. It made me mad to know that he had been taking the life out of her, and so I grabbed at his mist and held it tight till I saw his eyes. He raised me up and flung me down. I'm sorry, Doctor. I'm so sorry.
We must get to Mina's room, now!
Once more, we gathered our weapons and talismans, and we stalked down the corridor to Mina's and Jonathan's bedroom. Van Helsing turned the handle, but the door did not yield.
We threw ourselves against it.
On the bed, beside the window lay Jonathan Harker, his face flushed and breathing heavily as though in a stupor. Kneeling on the near edge of the bed, facing outwards, was the white-clad, blood-stained figure of his wife, Mina, curled up and sobbing.
Jonathan, he's in a stupor. And as we know, the vampire can produce. We can do nothing with poor Madam Mina for a few moments till she recovers.
In God's name, what does this mean? That blood! My God! Has it come to this?
Madamina, poor dear Madamina, can you tell us exactly what happened?
A thin white mist beside the bed, as if he had stepped out of the mist, or rather as if the mist had turned into his figure, for it had entirely disappeared, stood a tall, thin man, all in black. I knew him at once. I was powerless. With a mocking smile, he placed one hand upon my shoulder and, holding me tight, bared my throat with the other. And oh, my God, pity me. He placed his reeking lips upon my throat, and when he took his foul, awful, sneering mouth away, I saw it drip with fresh blood.
And so you, like the others, would pit your brains against mine. You would help these men to hunt and frustrate me in my design. You know now what it is to cross my path, and you, their best beloved one, are now to me flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, kin of my kin, and soon my companion and my helper. Now you shall come to my call. You shall cross land or sea to do my bidding. And to that end, this...
With that he pulled open his shirt, and with his long, sharp nails opened a vein in his breast. When the blood began to spurt out, he took my hands in one of his, and holding them tight, with the other seized my neck and pressed my mouth into the wound. Now I have his blood. Now I will be as he is.
As she was telling her terrible story, the eastern sky began to quicken. Harker was still and quiet, but over his face, as the awful narrative went on, came a grey look which deepened and deepened in the morning light, till the first red streak of the coming dawn rose up. And with the dawn ends our writings, for it was here that the diary ceased. Any who may find themselves searching through these papers will understand that, in the days that followed, Mina Harker transformed into a vampire, prepared to do the Count's bidding and destroy her companions. And yet, one may miscalculate, for indeed, Count Dracula himself made one desperate miscalculation. For when Dracula fed Mina his blood and created a passageway to her mind, he also built a road that ran two ways. In all his centuries of knowledge, Dracula failed to account for the staggering resilience of Mina Harker. For as he could enter her thoughts, so she his.
12:45. Count heading south. Look out!
Using Mina's bond with Dracula, we tracked the boxes of Earth all over the country, destroying all but one.
With each passing day, Mina grew weaker and more like Lucy.
I'm with him. I can't see. It's all dark.
What do you hear?
The lapping of water. He's gurgling by. Little waves of people. I can hear them on the outside.
Then you are on a ship.
Yes, I hear the men stamping overhead, creaking of a chain, rising of the anchor. I hear them talking. I know where he's going.
Where?
Home.
Since Transylvania, it's where we go. Dear Mina, now, more than ever, we must find him, even if we have to follow him to the jaws of hell. Then his ship docks. He must transport his box by carriage from there. We could reach Castle Dracula before him by train and horseback. John, also, pack your things. We sail at first light.
I'm coming with you.
Madam, you are quite weak now.
You left me last time, and look what happened. Jonathan knows the Count's country better than any of us, and I know the Count. You'll need us both when the time comes.
And so is Jonathan, powerful and healthy. Mina and I departing for land and sea we traveled, till we came face to face with the Carpathian Mountains, just as Jonathan had written of them. And here, One last entry, the diary of Mina Harker.
November 6th, Transylvania. 1 year to the day that Jonathan first arrived here, Van Helsing and I found Castle Dracula and sealed the door from the outside. We had parted with Harkers and Dr. Seward at Bistritz, where they had dispersed on horseback to scout for the Count's arrival. It was late in the afternoon when the Professor and I made our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan, Arthur, and Dr. Seward were coming. The way was steeply downhill, and looking back, I could see the clear line of Dracula's castle as it cut the sky in all its grandeur, perched 1,000 feet on the summit of a sheer precipice. The walls were far off, but sound, even though coming muffled through the deadening snowfall, was full of terror.
Amina, look!
Not far off, and approaching the castle where we waited, came a group of mounted men. They were the Count's allies, drawing a cart carrying a great square chest. My heart leapt as I saw it, for I felt
They're racing to beat the sunset. We may be too late. Look! 2 horsemen follow fast, coming up from the south. It must be Arthur and Jonathan.
And I can see Dr. Seward and the others coming from the north. They are converging. I got out my revolver, ready to hand. Arthur and Jonathan dashed up at one side of the cart.
The other, the freemen, raised their rifles and commanded the gypsies to stop.
At the same moment, Dr. Van Helsing and I rose up behind the rock and pointed our weapons at them.
Surrounded, the Barney tightened the reins and drew up full force.
But nothing seemed to stop or even hinder Jonathan Harker. Neither the levelled weapons, nor the flashing knives, nor the howling of the wolves behind.
In an instant, he had jumped upon the cart, and with a strength which seemed incredible, raised the great box of earth, and he flung it over the wheel to the ground.
The Zagani fled.
With desperate energy, Jonathan attacked the chest, prying the lid away with his knife.
To reveal the Count lying within the box upon the earth, deathly pale like a waxen image. His red eyes glared with horrible vindictive glare, which I knew so well. As I looked, his eyes saw the sinking sun.
And the look of hate in them turned to triumph.
But on the instant came the sweep and flash of Jonathan's great knife.
I saw it shear through the throat, and almost in a drawing of a breath, the whole body crumbled into dust and passed from our sight. I shall be glad as long as I live that even in that moment of final dissolution, there was in the face a look of peace such as I never could have imagined might have rested there.
The castle of Dracula now stood out against the red sky, and every stone of its broken battlements was articulate against the light of the setting sun.
We want no proofs.
We ask none to believe us.
Dracula, part of Dr. John Seward, was played by Richie Porter. Van Helsing by David Minton. Count Dracula by Connor Donahue. Lucy by Maggie Sperber-White. Mina by Grace Sperber-White. Jonathan Harker by Michael Novello. Arthur Holmwood by Kit Newman. Renfield by Sam Felsenthal. Zookeeper and Steward's Assistant by Mark Jefferson. Hotel Landlady and Mrs. Westenra by Celeste Weiser. Bereft Mother by Liz Porter. The newspaper reporters were played by Mark Jefferson, Kit Newman, and Liz Porter, and The Brides of Dracula by Liz Porter, Sophie Cameron, and Meg Lebo.
Thank you so much for joining us for this evening of classic horror. As always, if you enjoyed the performance, please consider making a donation in whatever amount to Lumina Studio. Just go to our website at luminastudio.org. For our coming season, our next offering from Theater Group is On the Razzle by Tom Stoppard on November 8th. On the Razzle by Tom Stoppard, adapted by our own John O'Connor. Thank you and have a good evening.